F-35 Lightning II, the world's most advanced. The F-35 Lightning II is undoubtedly one of the most advanced and impressive fighter jets ever built, yet it is also, without question, one of the most controversial and criticized military aircraft in history. While its technological capabilities and potential to reshape aerial combat are undeniable, a relentless series of technical problems and above all, its astronomical cost have made it a lightning rod for criticism. The U.S. Joint Strike Fighter program set out to replace multiple aircraft with a single, all-purpose platform capable of doing everything and saving money in the process. Instead, the winning design from Lockheed Martin became what many specialists consider one of the Pentagon's greatest blunders. We're talking about sums of money so staggering they border on the absurd. So how did the F-35 become the most expensive military program in American history, and is it actually worth the price? The origin of the F-35. The story of the F-35 begins in 1993, when the U.S. Armed Forces announced two separate aircraft development programs, both aimed at producing a lightweight, affordable combat aircraft. The following year, Congress merged these two initiatives into a single effort known as the Joint Strike Fighter program. The program's ambitions were extraordinary. The goal was to replace three distinct aircraft across three branches of the military: the F-16 Fighting Falcon of the Air Force, the F/A-18 Hornet used by the Navy and Marine Corps, and the AV-8B Harrier II operated by the Marines, all with a single aircraft capable of performing every mission those platforms handled. The vision was nothing short of revolutionary. The Joint Strike Fighter was expected to fly supersonic like an F-15 Eagle, evade enemy radar with the stealth capability of the F-117 Nighthawk, land on aircraft carriers like the Super Hornet, and take off and land vertically like the Harrier. The Pentagon's logic was straightforward: if one aircraft could do it all, the savings on acquisition costs, maintenance, and pilot training would be enormous. A single plane meant a single training pipeline, simplified logistics, and significant long-term financial gains. As we'll see, however, the reality fell far short of that vision. The competition, given the scale and complexity of the project, the budget allocated to the Joint Strike Fighter program was unprecedented, larger than that of any previous American aircraft program. Every major aerospace company put forward a proposal. After the initial design review, two finalists remained: Boeing and Lockheed Martin. Each company received $750 million to build a working prototype, with the strict condition that they not exceed that budget. The Pentagon was acutely aware that both firms might risk financial ruin just to win the contract. 8 years later, at the dawn of the new century, both manufacturers unveiled their prototypes: Boeing's X-32 and Lockheed Martin's X-35. The central design challenge was short takeoff and vertical landing capability. Boeing opted for a system similar to the one used in the Harrier. Lockheed Martin took a bolder approach, incorporating a shaft-driven lift fan, a mechanism never before used in an aircraft of this type. That daring engineering choice ultimately won Lockheed Martin the contract. In October 2001, the announcement came, and the celebrations at Lockheed Martin were well-deserved. The company had long anticipated this moment even before the Joint Strike Fighter program was officially launched. Their engineers had been sketching early concepts for a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. Knowing the Harrier would eventually need a successor, the Pentagon selected Lockheed Martin not only for their vertical flight system but also because the company had demonstrated remarkable expertise in stealth technology through their earlier F-117 Nighthawk program. Ironically, some of the same problems encountered with the Nighthawk would resurface in this new project. Development challenges. When Lockheed Martin's engineers began transforming the X-35 prototype into a production-ready aircraft, they immediately ran into trouble. Adding the required systems, weapons bays, and structural reinforcements to an aircraft whose performance depended critically on weight balance proved far more difficult than anticipated. After 2 painstaking years of work, engineers discovered that the modifications, including extending the weapons bay as the Pentagon required, had added approximately 1,000 kilograms to the aircraft's weight. This severely compromised vertical takeoff performance. Although subsequent engineering work reduced some of that excess weight, the problem never fully disappeared. The core objective, a single airframe capable of replacing the Harrier, the Hornet, and the Fighting Falcon, was simply not achievable. Lockheed Martin's solution was to propose 3 distinct variants of the same aircraft, sharing the same fundamental platform but adapted for the specific operational needs of each military branch. The F-35A was the conventional variant, designed for standard takeoff and landing from traditional airfields and military installations. The F-35B incorporated a vectoring exhaust nozzle and a concealed lift fan to enable short takeoff and vertical landing, allowing it to operate from marine assault ships and unprepared airstrips. The F-35C was optimized for carrier operations, featuring a larger wingspan to allow slower approach speeds during carrier landings. The U.S. Armed Forces accepted this approach under one important condition: all three variants had to share at least 80% of their components and avionics. This was intended to control production and maintenance costs. The initial development budget was set at $233 billion. That figure would prove wildly insufficient. Lockheed Martin began with the simplest version. The F-35A reached a satisfactory state relatively quickly, but when engineers turned to the F-35B, they discovered that adapting the design was far more complex than anticipated. The differences required to make vertical landing work were far greater than originally assumed. An additional 18 months and $6.2 billion were needed just to get the B variant functioning, and this was only the beginning of a long series of setbacks. Despite the mounting difficulties, Lockheed Martin completed the initial development phase in 2006 and unveiled the aircraft to the world, naming it the Lightning II in tribute to the P-38 Lightning, one of the most influential American military aircraft of World War II. At its debut, the F-35 performed only a brief test flight and would not reach full combat readiness for another decade. Nevertheless, orders from military branches and allied nations poured in at an impressive scale. Between 2006 and 2011, each variant underwent extensive testing that progressively exposed deeper, more serious design flaws. Each failure caused delays, drove up costs further, and intensified public and political scrutiny of the program. It is worth acknowledging, however, that some of these difficulties were simply unavoidable. Lockheed Martin was doing something genuinely unprecedented. Trial and error was an inherent part of the process that is one of the fundamental costs of pushing the boundaries of technology, particularly in military development. Meanwhile, the United States found itself in a precarious strategic position. China and Russia already operated highly capable fourth-generation fighters such as the J-10 and the Su-35, and both countries were actively developing their own fifth-generation stealth aircraft. With F-22 Raptor production cancelled in 2011 after just 186 operational units, primarily due to cost, the F-35 became the last active fighter program in the country. It was, in effect, America's last bet. If it failed, the political, strategic, and military consequences would be severe. Under those circumstances, it is understandable that financial considerations were pushed to the background. The aircraft's capabilities. After years of anticipation, the F-35 was formally introduced into operational service in 2015. Despite its turbulent development, there is no question that the F-35 Lightning II is a genuinely spectacular aircraft. Lockheed Martin ultimately delivered a multi-role combat platform capable of vertical takeoff and landing, supersonic flight, air superiority, ground attack, and advanced electronic warfare, all in a single airframe. The F-35 reaches a top speed of approximately 1,900 km per hour, or Mach 1.6. Its deep weapons bay can accommodate bombs exceeding 1,000 kilograms, along with a sophisticated array of air-to-air and air-to-ground missiles. Its maneuverability is exceptional. Outside of the F-22 Raptor, very few aircraft can match the Lightning II in a dogfight. Perhaps most impressively, its tactical electronic systems and situational awareness capabilities are so advanced that the aircraft has earned the nickname quarterback of the sky. The F-35 can gather and transmit battlefield information at unmatched speeds and over remarkable ranges, effectively multiplying the effectiveness of every other aircraft in its fleet. Combined with its stealth technology, which renders it largely invisible to enemy radar, the Lightning II represents a generational leap in aerial warfare. The F-35's onboard computer system, known as ALICE, Autonomic Logistics Information System, forms the backbone of the aircraft's communication and operational capabilities. While airborne, it continuously monitors the aircraft's condition and tracks potential maintenance and logistics issues. Those 24 million lines of code keep the jet flying and mission ready at all times. To put that in perspective, the F/A-18 Super Hornet itself, a highly advanced aircraft, runs on just 4 million lines of code. The F-35 software complexity alone speaks volumes about just how far ahead of its time this aircraft truly is. The costs. Lockheed Martin did indeed deliver the world's most advanced and capable multi-role fighter, a genuine weapon of war with enormous destructive and organizational power. But as we have seen throughout this story, that achievement came at a price that defies comprehension. The initial program budget was $233 billion, already a staggering sum. That figure was surpassed long ago. Costs subsequently climbed to approximately $400 billion, and the total projected cost of the entire F-35 program now exceeds $1.7 trillion, not billion. To put that in perspective, the United States could have built 11 international space stations with that money and still had $75 billion left over. It is also worth noting that 70% of that figure represents operational costs rather than procurement. The hourly operating cost of the F-35 runs between $36,000 and $44,000, considerably higher than the aircraft it was designed to replace, all of which were chosen partly for their cost efficiency. Some of that investment will be recovered through foreign sales. Unlike the F-22 Raptor, which the U.S. refused to export, the F-35 has been made available to allied nations. To date, 14 countries have purchased or are in the process of acquiring the aircraft, including the United Kingdom, Switzerland, Romania, Denmark, Italy, Poland, Norway, and most recently Canada, which announced in January 2023 that it would purchase 88 F-35s in a deal valued at $14.2 billion. In March 2023, a new modernization effort was announced for the U.S. fleet, known as Block 4. This upgrade program requires new adaptive engine technology developed through the Adaptive Engine Transition Program (AETP) to provide the increased electrical power and thermal management needed to support the Block 4 weapons and systems suite. Along with those core benefits, the new engines are expected to deliver incremental improvements in range and thrust. The engine upgrades are projected to be completed by 2028. Despite these developments, criticism of the program continues from every direction: civilians, specialists, military personnel, and even former President Donald Trump. A significant portion of the American public remains unconvinced that this was the best use of those resources. Under sustained pressure, Lockheed Martin has committed to reducing production costs in the coming years, though that commitment is unlikely to bridge the deep divide between the program's defenders and its critics anytime soon. Was it worth it? This brings us to the fundamental question: has this monstrous investment been worth it? The F-35 Lightning II's combat capabilities are genuinely extraordinary, yet it has experienced too many problems over too long a period, and even today it has not fully established itself as the most reliable aircraft in the U.S. fleet. At the same time, its operating and production costs remain difficult to justify on purely economic grounds. What is clear, however, is that this is a platform that will remain in service for decades to come, one that has the potential to redefine military aviation. In many ways, it is already doing so. For that reason, it may simply be too early to render a final verdict. The F-35's true value will ultimately be determined by how it performs in real combat and in high-stakes operational environments. While it has already participated in military operations, its track record remains limited. What we can say with certainty is this: the F-35 Lightning II is the most advanced multi-role fighter ever built, and by a significant margin, the most expensive military aircraft ever created.